Well, hello, this is Jeff Gaudiosi, and you're on misplacedstraws.com, where music comes to life. And my guest today is the guitarist and vocalist of one of my favorite modern rock bands, Blackstone Cherry. They're going to be releasing a killer new record called Screaming at the Sky on September 29th. From Blackstone Cherry, please welcome Chris Robertson. Welcome, Chris.
What's up, dude? How you
Hey,
doing, man?
good. It's a pleasure to have you. Yeah, and it's funny. I said modern band. I almost called you a new band, but then you kind of
Well,
realize you guys have been doing this for 20 years almost.
been
You're
yeah, dude. We started the band in '01 and then put out the first record in '06, man. So we're creeping up on that 20-year anniversary of the first record. But it's an odd thing, man. It's like, and we get labeled a newer band a lot because we we never really jumped to the next level on our first few records, and then we did a couple records where we just kind of took a step back from the active rock world and did more of like a stoner rock, classic rock kind of vibe with Magic Mountain and Family Tree, and that was a lot of great fun. But with the new records, the last two records, man, we really jumped back in, and there's a lot of people that are discovering us for the first time. Even though we've been around for 20 years, there's a lot of people that are just now learning about Blackstone Cherry, and that's totally fine with us, man. We accept new fans anytime they want to join up. So we're all about it.
does it feel like you're a veteran of the business yet, or do you still feel kind of that hunger to prove yourself with each record and each show?
I think it's both
Mhm.
always because like, we don't get me wrong, we've been doing it a long time, and we know the ins and outs of the business, and we know, if we get a tour, we got to go deliver, and we know sometimes if we don't get a tour that another band got it for this reason. We understand the business and how it works pretty well, and it's just much like any other business on the planet. You take the cards you're dealt, and you and your people create the best hand you can with them, but man, this business is it's one where the minute you stop having the desire to prove yourself with your craft, you might as well go on home,
Yep.
because there's going to be a group of kids coming up out of a garage or a basement somewhere that are doing everything, bleeding every day in, day out, to do this. So if you get to that point where you don't want to, step it up every time, and just go into the house, man.
Yeah, and it's been 3 years since Human Condition came out, which is a pretty long break for you guys, considering
Hmm.
between the last couple records you put out, the blues covers EPs. You had a major lineup change with John leaving, but did you guys
Hmm.
feel the need to take some time and kind of refocus the band for Screaming at the Sky, or was it just
Not
life gets in the
really.
way?
And man, I think more than anything, the pandemic happened. It's because we finished recording the Human Condition right as the pandemic started,
Mm,
and then we went through the next 18 months of, well, there really ain't no live performing arts going on, and then once we had a chance to go out and play some shows, we wanted to do that
mm,
because, truthfully, in the business now, talking about earlier, being veterans are still out there trying to grind. The business now more than ever, doing what we do, you make your living playing concerts, selling T-shirts.
yeah.
Because streams are great and all, but they don't pay, and records don't sell anymore, so you're not getting paid royalties there. So it's literally concerts and T-shirts. So the minute we had a chance to go tour, we were like, okay, let's go play some shows,
Mm,
man. Just number one, to get back in the flow of playing shows, but then it'd also be nice to pay next month's bills and not have to worry about it. You know what I mean? And but truthfully, man, it's we wanted to go tour. We wanted to go play those songs that we worked so hard on that record, and then never got to tour off of it
mm,
really much.
mm.
So when it time came around, we were talking about wanting to start touring again, and it was like, okay, well, we're going to need another record. It's getting time for that. So, and we decided we didn't want to do an EP, so we
Mm.
just went and did more shows for a while and wrote the songs as we did the shows. Because admittedly, man, it's hard as shit for us now that we're all mid-30s, you
Mhm.
know, other than Steve. He's a young pup. He's 31, getting ready to be a thing. Um, but you know, we get home, life happens, you know, and it's no more rock and roller Chris. It's dad Chris. It's husband Chris. You know, it's grandson Chris, and those are the things that I absolutely live for.
Mhm.
So, but what that gets to is the majority of our writing gets done on the bus.
Mhm.
So we're writing while we're out there touring. People might think, well, they're not even writing songs. No, we're actively. The reason you don't see me come off a bus is because I'm in the back lounge all the time, Pro Tools open, messing with one of our ideas we've been writing. You
Yeah.
know, um, but we were super excited, man, to start getting this new music out. You know, because we recorded the first half of it in June last year, and then we finished it all up at the very beginning of January this year. So we've been sitting on it, man, for almost a year before the first thing, you know, got put out,
Yeah.
waiting for people to hear it. And it, well, since June of last year, you know, we've been sitting on the first song, and we're just finally excited people to start hearing it. And that, you know, the way the world works now is people get like 3 or 4 songs before the record comes
Mhm.
out, and it's a great. There's no greater time to be a fan of music than right now with the amount of music bands are putting out
Yeah.
and the quality as well. I said that on an interview earlier. I think, you know, coming out this side of the pandemic, our first release since then, I speak for us, and I'm going to go ahead and speak on behalf of 95% of the music I've heard since the pandemic, that bands are writing their most honest material to date
Yeah.
since the world got shut down.
Mhm. Without a doubt, I agree with that 100%. You know, and it's funny because, like, with you guys, you know, when I think of your band, and especially the last couple records, it's just it's evolution. I don't think you've ever done the same thing twice, which is amazing. And I
We
think with
tried not
Human
to.
Condition and now with Screaming at the Sky, to me, you've gone from being a good rock band to being an important rock band. And
I
by that,
sincerely appreciate that.
you know, and by that I mean your lyrics. I mean, you guys deal with current topics, mental health issues, things that the kid listening in his room, you know, with his AirPods on, sees themselves in and knows they're not alone going through it. When you're writing lyrics, I mean, do you feel that responsibility and that weight when you're writing something like Screaming at the Sky or Nervous or Out of Pocket?
Man, I think more so than ever and more than anything, as far as my contribution of my lyrical contribution to the record, because we all write together, you know. But I think more so than ever, I just said, stop hiding anything. Just
Mhm.
say the truth of how you feel. And chances are someone else has felt that way before as well, or currently does. Because with as many people there are alive today,
Mhm.
somebody else feels how you feel, you
Mhm.
know, to some degree. And I just, instead of trying to say it in a fancy way or trying to beat around the bush, and just come out and said it with my contribution. And I felt nervous at first about it, but the more the songs get released and people hear the stuff, the better I feel about it, because I feel like there's no guessing in these songs.
Mhm.
Like, it's direct in what it's about, and it addresses those things head on, you know?
Yeah,
Even Raindrops on a Rose,
mhm.
where, I mean, that song is admittedly, from my contribution, about my dad, you know, and Jordan's dad. And, you know, that line where it says, sometimes it feels hopeless when everyone knows it's only a matter of time. Before we all see it, try to find reason before we must say goodbye. It's just the truth, man.
Mhm.
Because there's so many times that with my dad in the situation he was in, we'd be having the best time sitting around laughing, doing something, you know, with our minds not on anything. And I would just look over and my heart would sink because I knew that sooner than later I wasn't going to get to see those smiles anymore, man. And that's that hopelessness, even in the happiest times, you know. And we've all experienced that. And you know, man, I really hope these songs connect with people the way they've seemed to connect with you.
Yeah. And I think that's a brave thing for a band. And I think, especially for you guys, I mean, you're a rock band from the South, but you're not a Southern rock band. And you've
Right.
evolved, you know, through all of that. So I think it's even a little more important for a band like you guys to touch on these things, because you don't get that a lot from other similar bands. Did you ever, you mentioned feeling a little nervous about getting into some of the lyrics as you were doing it, but did you ever feel any pushback from sort of that early audiences, like, no, go out, write more songs about parties and things like that?
Not from never any pushback about topics. The only pushback I've had at all on this record so far is my use of explicit language.
Mhm,
And you know, I knew that was going to happen.
mhm,
That's also why there are clean versions of both of any song. There's a clean version as well,
mhm,
whether it be just a edited, a bleeped out, like a chopped word, or I replaced the word or whatever. You hear nervous on the radio, it
yeah,
doesn't have the F word in it. Out of pocket on the radio, it doesn't have it. But admittedly, the honest feeling has those words in it.
mhm,
The way when I get to where I feel that way to where I want to say it in a song, it has that adjective in it.
mhm,
I and I, it is what it is. I didn't want anybody to feel left out, so we did clean versions as well. But I look at it from this perspective. My son will be 11 years old in October. He's allowed to sing along with me at any concert he wants to. He's not allowed to say the bad words outside of songs,
mhm,
but in a song, he's
yeah,
allowed to sing along with anything dad says.
mhm,
I knew that when we wrote these songs. When my kid sings along with those songs, he doesn't sing the F word.
mhm,
He replaces it with the 10-year-old version.
mhm,
You know, if my own kid can listen to it and go, well, I probably shouldn't say what dad says, then it's at parental discretion at that point. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
for me, and I mean, but at the same time, I guess Declan's grown up around hearing me talk the way I talk, and then on stage, it's never been in our songs up until this
yeah,
record, but on stage, I've always had kind of a bad mouth.
mhm,
And I don't mean anything by it. It's just how I talk, man.
mhm,
I, you know, I was spoiled, I guess, at the fact that I've spent the majority of my adult life on a 60-foot submarine on wheels with a group of dudes, and we don't have to pay attention to what we say. We can just let words fly,
mhm,
and it's different, man. They
mhm,
say a sailor's mouth. It's a real thing.
yeah,
It's a real thing.
yeah, but when I first heard "Nervous" and you hear that, I was a little surprised, because usually you don't hear that in your songs, but it's not gratuitous. It's not there for shock factor. It's the emotion of the song. It felt natural, so it's funny because, like I said, I did stop for a second, but it didn't really phase me, because like I said, it wasn't gratuitous. It was part of the emotion. So,
Yeah,
I didn't
I
see
mean,
it.
look,
Yeah.
it is what it is, and it's at the end of the day, it's just a word,
Yeah.
And I don't know, especially now more than ever, to a large number, words carry way more weight
Mhm.
than they used to. Um, and I totally understand that, and it may be highly offensive to some people that have always been longtime Blackstone Cherry fans, and to them, I do apologize if I made you feel bad, but at the same time, it's what we do has got to be a true representation and expression of ourselves, and that's what we gave out.
Yeah.
We also gave the other version, but the true honest version is the one that's on the
Mhm.
record.
Mhm. Yeah, and we had mentioned earlier, bassist John Lyon leaving the band, in this last cycle. You guys started the band as kids. You've all grown
Hmm.
up together. What's it been like incorporating Steve Jewell into this long-running family that you had?
Man, I read it best in a comment, better than I could even put
Mhm,
it. Somebody commented after our very first tour that Steve did with us, which was the tour where we did the Albert Hall DVD.
mhm,
That was Steve's first actual tour with us. And one of the comments I read from the second show was, I thought it would be odd, but it's like Steve's been here from the beginning,
mhm,
was someone's comment. And there were a plethora that came in after that saying the same kind of stuff or similar. And that's what it felt like. I remember when we got the call, John said, I can do the first show, but I can't do the next three on this run. And we were leaving that night.
mhm,
So it was very last minute. And my instant thought was, who the fuck's going to play bass for us this weekend? So I called the guys and I was like, how about I play bass? We'll just tailor the set list. Ben can take care of the solos and stuff. And John Fred and Ben were like, well, that's highly commendable, but you playing guitar is part of the sound of our band. You got to play guitar. And we're like, well, all right. I said, okay, who are we going to get? And the first thought I had was, if I broke my arm and we had a tour we couldn't postpone, who would you call to play your guitar parts that would learn them and appreciate it and really, really, you know, grab a hold of what it is? And it was Steve. He was the first person that came to mind. I didn't even know Steve could play bass. I called Steve. I said, hey man, I said, how good a bass player are you? He goes, I don't know, pretty good, I guess. He said, I don't know. All right, I guess. And I said, all right. I said, well, can you play bass for us if we can show you the songs at a couple shows? He said, well, I can for sure try. When is it? I said, we leave tonight, and it's shows. We got one show a day off and then 3 shows. And I need you to play the last 3 shows, 45 minutes a night. We can teach you the 9 or 10 songs. He said, let me make a phone call. 5 minutes later, he calls me back. He goes, I'm in, man. I can do it. I'll figure it out. Can you give me a list of songs? I said, yeah, here it is. So he's played bass for us ever since. That was it. John never came back, decided to leave after that. You know, like you said, we started this band, we were kids, and over time, people's desires and things that they want to do in life change. And the pandemic really gave people a lot of time to think, and you know, things change for people. And this is who we are now, where we are now, and onward and upward has always been our mentality, and nothing changed. I mean, and that's not saying leaving anybody behind. You know, I wish everybody the best, but I'm just saying our thing is, no matter what life has brought at Blackstone Cherry, it's always been okay. We move on and up. We move on and up, and that's without that mentality, I don't know that we would still be around 20 years later. You know, no matter what this industry or life in general is thrown at us, we figured out a way to keep going. And I, for one, am damn proud of that, especially in today's industry.
You definitely should be. I mean, it's a long career to be around this long. And one of the things you guys do best is play live. Screaming at the Skies out September 29th. Do you have a tour planned around the release? You know, what are you guys looking at going forward?
So as of right now, we're actively booking out the rest of the year. Obviously, we're going back to the UK right around album release, doing some in-stores and some shows over there. And then we come back. We got a tour that we're just about to finalize. It looks like sometime for November we'll be out. And then like I said, we're actively booking the rest of this year and already into next year some. So we're going to be on the road. We're going to be in a city near somebody seeing this soon within the next 12 months, I promise you.
Can't wait for it. And when it comes to a live show, you know, the big thing these days are backing tracks. Where do you guys stand on the use of tracks? I mean, my opinion of you guys seeing you is you're 100% live out there.
Backing tracks, never heard of her.
Great answer.
That's my stance. Look, I also am not going to just turn a blind eye and say fuck all bands that use tracks, because that's unfair. Because in today's production, there are a lot of bands that 50% of their song, even falling in reverse, for example, Ronnie Radke will be the first to tell you that 50 to 70% of some of their songs are a track that the band plays with. Now, do I think that makes it okay to cancel the show because your track machine is down? Absolutely not. I think that at the core of it, the band should be able to perform their songs as the band. And if you can't, then you should have some kind of clause or something to dispel that. Right. But I have no problem with bands using stuff, because who can expect a band to hire out an orchestra every night if they truly think that sound is detrimental to a song, right? What band, I don't care who you are, you can't afford to hire out a 40-piece orchestra to tour with you to play one song a night. Bands can't do that. So, you know, it's a fine line, man. For me, it's a really fine line, because for me, the way I look at it is it's a fine line, but it's actually pretty simple. The integral band should never be tracked.
Yes.
The guy playing drums, the guy playing guitar, the guy playing bass, the people playing the fucking instruments and the vocals should be doing their job. Additional stuff, if if you're doing that, then I understand, man. Do your
Yep.
thing, right? Or if you're a band that's where you've got one guy that sings and he puts on, you know, harmonies on a chorus in the studio and nobody in the else in the band can physically sing, and he sings the lead vocal, but they've got the harmonies brought up, then so be it, man. Whatever. Like I, I personally wouldn't, but I get it. I understand why, because at the end of the day, 95% of the bands that run tracks aren't doing it because they can't play the stuff or because they don't want to play the stuff. They're doing it because they're so afraid to play a version of that song that the people haven't heard on the radio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we're just of a different mindset, man. We're of a mindset that the live show is the live show and the album is the album. And that's the difference. And there's no right or wrong answer to it, man. Mm-hmm. In today's society, there's no right or wrong answer to yes tracks, no tracks. In my personal opinion, as far as Blackstone Cherry goes, we won't use them.
Yep.
The only thing we ever do is if we see videos of us getting a song really, really fast sometimes, every now and then we'll play it one night to a metronome. Mm-hmm. We'll just have like a metronome that just a cowbell going pop, boom, to start the song tempo so it doesn't get so fast that I can't sing it. And then after we play it one night to a metronome, then we're right back locked in the groove and we don't use it anymore. It just like, man, we tried years and years ago after we recorded Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea, because the first record we did, we didn't even record the click track. So the Blackstone Cherry self-titled debut, there's no metronome, there was none of that stuff. We just went in there, John Free counted off the songs, we played them, we punched in what we needed to fix, and that was the end of the recording process. From then on, we've been in, you know, situations where either the producer wanted us to for just song's sake and for production quality, honestly, it makes sense to play to a metronome in the studio. But we've recorded all of our songs to a metronome since. Now, we'll play around the metronome or shut it off at parts and then kick it back on at parts. But, you know, in the studio, we'll record our songs to one. It's just standard practice. You know what I mean? They've been doing that for decades now. But live, it almost, for us, it's almost like going out and getting a wild horse and trying to saddle it. First thing and expecting it to trot. It ain't going to happen. And we just feel like we're pulling back the whole time. You know what I mean? Like it feels, I don't know. We're more like AC/DC in that regard, where we'd rather play a song 10 beats faster than it is on the album. And it'd be hard to sing than play it one beat slower than it is on the record. Because it's slower than the album is just boring as shit to me.
Yep.
It's like, oh my God, is it over with yet? You know, but it's just, I can promise you, if you come see Blackstone Cherry, anything you're hearing that is a instrument or vocal, if you're hearing it during our show, it's one of us playing it. Yeah. And if it's bongos, it's Jeff coming out from behind the drum riser playing the bongos. Like we don't use any kind of backing track whatsoever. We never have, never will. You know, we're much like Hailstorm in that regard. They're another great friends of ours that same thing. They don't use any kind of backing track, nothing. They just go out there and do their thing.
Well, we've been spending some time here with Chris Robertson. The band is Blackstone Cherry. The record is called Screaming at the Sky. It's out everywhere on September 29th. Pre-orders are up now on your website for all kinds of different versions of it. It's a great record. Chris, best of luck with it. And thank you so much for taking some time to do this.
Yes, sir. Let's do it again sometime. Thank you.
You got it, my friend. Thanks.
Have a good one.